Good evening, greetings to one and all. Welcome to the channel. And today again we are back with another editorial analysis. ये editorial analysis international relations के point of view से ज़रूरी है. तो हम कहाँ पढ़ते हैं international relations को? हम GS2 में international relations को अपने देखते हैं. अब इस एडिटोरियल में एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात शशि थरूर के द्वारा आ रही है. तो शशि थरूर ये लोकसभा के मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट हैं. तो इनका ओपिनियन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि ये काफ़ी हद तक यूनाइटेड नेशंस से रह चुके हैं और इनका इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस के ऊपर काफ़ी अच्छा नॉलेज बेस है. तो ये जो टाइटल दे रहे हैं ना इस एडिटोरियल को, कह रहे हैं कि इंडिया का एक रोल है वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब में. अभी जो वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब है, आप इंटरनेट सोच रहे होगे, वो इंटरनेट के बारे में बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. वो बेसिकली बात कर रहे हैं कि किस तरीके से आज की जो दुनिया है वो इंटरकनेक्टेड है बहुत ज़्यादा. और एक समय ऐसा था जब इंडिया ने नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट की पुकार करी थी और कहा था कि वो भारत की पूरी दुनिया की जो दो सबसे बड़ी शक्तियां हैं उनमें से किसी की तरफ भी झुकाव नहीं रखता है अपना. अब वो नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट थोड़ा ऑब्सोलीट हो चुका है. ज़माना मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड का है, मल्टीलेटरल वर्ल्ड का है. और फॉरेन पॉलिसी सिर्फ फॉरेन पॉलिसी के ऊपर नहीं डिपेंडेंट है, वो डोमेस्टिक सिचुएशन से भी गाइड होती है. तो ये एडिटोरियल का ये पैराग्राफ आप ज़रा ध्यान से पढ़िए मेरे साथ. इसमें कह रहे हैं फॉरेन पॉलिसी हैज़ मच पावर टू इट. द ओल्ड बाइनरीज ऑफ द कोल्ड वॉर era are no longer relevant. Now binaries means that during the Cold War era the world was divided into two sides. One was supporting USSR, the other was supporting United States of America. Now at the same time the author mentions the distinction between domestic and international is less and less meaningful in today's world. Why? Because foreign policy is no longer just foreign. When we think of foreign policy, we must also think of its domestic implications, which means the two of them are fundamentally interconnected, intertwined to each other. Now, he tells you one very interesting thing, that what is the ultimate purpose of country's foreign policy, and you can definitely use this particular line, mark it, and you can quote it in any of your answers. Now, it tells you that the role of the country's foreign policy is to promote the security and well-being of its own citizens, which means our foreign policy is guided for the purpose of the well-being of citizens, which means citizens will have a say as to what could be country's foreign policy. It no longer stays limited to the role of the government. So we want a world that gives us the conditions of peace and security that will permit us to grow and flourish, safe from foreign depredations. Now, safe from foreign depredations means that we don't want the negative consequences of the foreign relations between two X and Y countries falling on us. And we are also open always for external opportunities. This is the ultimate role of foreign policy. Now, this is a definition. This is a definition, which is why it is too ideal to achieve. You cannot remain safe from foreign depredations, as we have seen recently in the debates of climate change, in the debates of basically pandemic control, and now the world was also talking about what developed countries could do about developing nations. So we have seen that this is an era of conflict, and Russia-Ukraine war did impact some sort of, you can say, supply of materials and services to India also. But yes, the point now that the author is making, it's a very humble point, is something to observe, that the world cannot continue without continuation or without a discussion from India, without an extension that is provided by India. But the question is, the real challenge before us is that how long can we stay non-aligned? How long we can ensure strategic autonomy? Now please notice these two words when he says non-aligned and when he mentioned strategic autonomy. अब नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट को आपको स्ट्रैटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी के साथ कंपेयर करना है और आपको इस एडिटोरियल में स्ट्रैटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी को भी समझना है. ऑथर कंक्लूड्स विद अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टेटमेंट. कहता है कि आज हम एक ऐसी पोजीशन में हैं और इस पोजीशन में हम ग्रेजुएट हो चुके हैं. यहां से हम ग्रेजुएट हो चुके हैं. कैसी पोजीशन से? लिमिटेड टू आवर सॉवरेन ऑटोनॉमी टू एक्सरसाइजिंग अ विजन ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑन द वर्ल्ड स्टेज. पहले हम सिर्फ अपनी आजादी ना हमसे कोई छीन ले, हम उस पर फोकस करते थे. आज ये समय चेंज हो गया है और हमारी एक जिम्मेदारी बनते हुए आ रही है वर्ल्ड स्टेज पे. सो अर्लियर वी वर थिंकिंग अबाउट द पोस्ट कॉलोनियल कंसर्न्स दैट वी हैव ऑफ सेल्फ प्रोटेक्शन. ऑलराइट, बट नाउ वी हैव अ न्यू रोल to participate in the making of global rules. And interestingly, he says that you have a role in imposing them also. Now, this is what where he has appreciated our external affairs ministers and said and mentions that भारत का ये जो उभरता नया किरदार है, रोल है, कैरेक्टर है, ये देखने लायक होगा. तो अब हम यहाँ पे ऑथर के पूरे एडिटोरियल के पॉइंट्स को, ये हाईलाइटेड पीडीएफ आपको मिल जाएगा, उस पूरे हाईलाइटेड पॉइंट्स को कुछ टुकड़ों में गिनती की बातों में समझते हैं. इंडिया ग्लोबल साउथ साउथ कोऑपरेशन की बात कर रहा है. साउथ साउथ कोऑपरेशन का मतलब ये है बेसिकली इक्वेटर के नीचे की जितनी भी कंट्रीज हैं वो आज इंडिया की तरफ देखती हैं. आप ब्राज़ील का एग्जांपल ले लीजिए, आप साउथ अफ्रीका का एग्जांपल ले लीजिए, चाहे आप छोटे मोटे आइलैंड स्टेट्स का एग्जांपल ले लीजिए, आप श्रीलंका की बात कर लीजिए, आप इंडोनेशिया की बात कर लीजिए. From the extreme corners of the world, we would be finding that this is the era of South-South cooperation. Now, South-South cooperation is also strategically important. Please remember that most of the countries in the South-South region have a large coastline in the respective seas where the importance of oceanic trade is there. All right. India has a role in de-risking of global economy. Now, de-risking of global economy means that India कर सकता है कि ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी के बुरे प्रभाव भारत देश पे ना पड़े. दूसरा, ये दूसरी इकोनॉमीज को, दुनिया की बड़ी मेजर इकोनॉमीज को इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकता है. इसके पास आज इतनी ताकत है, तो ये एक नया ग्लोबल नेटवर्क शेप करने में मदद करेगा. जहां पे पुराना जो दौर था वर्ल्ड लीडर्स का कि कोई कह दे कि हम दुनिया में ग्लोबल लीडर हैं, एक तरफा हमारी सुनेंगे लोग, वो दौर खत्म हो चुका है. और यहाँ पे इंडिया और चाइना दोनों का एक मेजर रोल हमारे सामने है. सवाल यह है कि इंडिया को वर्ल्ड लीडर क्या बनाता है? व्हाट मेक्स इंडिया वर्ल्ड लीडर? इंडिया बिकम्स अ वर्ल्ड लीडर वेदर बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स पॉपुलेशन, वेदर बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स मिलिट्री स्ट्रेंथ, वेदर बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स प्रेजेंस ऑफ न्यूक्लियर पावर, और वेदर इट्स इकोनॉमी. Now, apparently, answer lies in the questions and these points only, that these are the 4 criteria which decides that who shall be the world power. So, definitely by 2023, India is going to have the world's largest population. If in comparison of military strength, we already stand to be the 4th largest military. Nuclear power, the position of India is apparently very much clear since 1998 after the second Pokhran test that we have conducted. If you talk in terms of economy, we are the 5th largest economy. We have recently crossed United Kingdom, not because our economy is growing, but because their economy is falling down. But then it is a undisputed fact that we are third largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. So we have all these 4 prerequisites and conditions. And the new word that has been attached with the definition of India is the word soft power. Now, what do you mean by soft power? So it is the power basically a country has where it can influence world decisions without the show of muscle or military strength. Are you getting me? This soft power means that it is a power that you have where you can influence global decisions, where you can influence what United Nations is about to decide or thinking about the future of the global economy or the global world order. And India can influence just because it has all these 4 factors. And India definitely would not want to use nuclear weapon or military strength. The history has no record of India doing aggression against any country. India has retaliated or responded or acted in self-defense. But the question is, how can India call itself a developed nation or a superpower that it wants to become by the 21st century? We have problem of poverty, we have problem of healthcare, we have problem of hunger, and we are finding difficulty in achieving the sustainable development goals. So the author answers this question that you cannot say that India doesn't have, every country has problems, but these problems are not overpowering India's decisions because India is an active participant in the global relations, and this is the new definition of power, where you are actively engaging with each participant. You're talking to Ukraine also, you're trying to convince Russia also, you're talking to the European Union also, you're talking to Brazil also, South Africa also, and in fact, you're talking to China also. All right. Yeah. But our discussion with Pakistan is limited to what India has a role to play in Afghanistan. So this is something that the world author is talking about, and he mentions it from the perspective of an interconnected world. Now I will take another 2-3 minutes of yours. See, this is a Russia, India, China grouping that happens every year. And you will not find in this country that any South countries are there. China, India, and Russia are the 3 largest countries of the Asian continent, you can mention. The other is the basic countries. These countries come together in climate change or global biodiversity convention and all that, whatever is related to climate. And B stands for Brazil, South Africa, India, and China. Here you won't find that Russia is there. Now, all of these countries are included in BRICS format: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And then there are other also groupings that are being formed recently for South-South cooperation. And this grouping was basically formed not in recently, it is an old grouping: India, Brazil, and South Africa. Here you won't find interference of China to be there, Russia to be there. So this is the perspective of strategic autonomy, where you can engage with different competitors and different countries who have similar interests or similar, you can say, objectives in your area, in your periphery. So you can leverage your interconnection, maintain your strategic autonomy, because non-aligned movement is completely not possible and it is obsolete now. All right. Non-aligned movement was relevant in 1960s and 1970s when India wanted to avoid getting involved in the Cold War dynamics. Moving further ahead, what is the role of the India in the 21st century? I would like to conclude the editorial with what Shashi Tharoor has mentioned in this particular editorial. He says that it's not the era of non-aligned countries or movement. Now we are multi-aligned. Each member is related to another member, and that is why we called it a World Wide Web, which you can definitely find in United Nations, which is the sole representative of an interconnected world, of a responsible world order, where 193 member states are there, and each member state is given an opportunity to mention his or her their stake basically. India also had a major role to play in SAARC, where India is having 7 members as the participants of this particular organization. However, I don't find a point to mention SAARC, because we have seen that SAARC meetings have not been conducted beyond 2014. This is my personal opinion. Now, since Shashi Tharoor is definitely a Congress person, so he would want China and Russia to be on on the same table, and that is what the Congress objective has been. So he definitely mentions SAARC, but you see, he does not mention BRICS. He does not BIMSTEC. He does not mention that, which is the sole initiative where Bharatiya Janata Party is more inclined to participate. I don't know. That is where we can see that domestic politics guide foreign relations also. India is also a participant of G77 countries, which is a coalition of 120 emerging economies of the world. India is also hosting G20 in 2023, which is the coalition of developed and developing nations, which take key economic decisions and they engage in active discussions related to global economy that affects geopolitics also. So India is now the voice of emerging economies. India is also sole voice of rising democracies, being the world's largest democracy. And this is India's role in the 21st century. That is why India has a role in World Wide Web. With this point, I would like to conclude today's editorial analysis. How did you find the analysis? Do let me know in the comment section. Your opinions are actively vouched for, waited for, and appreciated. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next editorial analysis.